Great. I hope you guys can see my presentation here, data collection. Okay, can you please type in the chat window if you can see this presentation here? Type a Y if you can see my presentation. Type a Y, just a Y in the chat window, people. Type a Y if you can see my presentation here on data collection. Just a Y. I'm waiting, people. All right, Wilbur. Okay, Cliff, Anton, right. Okay, that's great. Great. Now, people, let's start off. So what is data collection? What is data collection? What do you mean by data collection? Data collection, guys. Okay, let me quickly unmute you so that we discuss this and then, okay, it's fine. Let me just go on before you come in. Let me just unmute you. Let me unmute you guys so that you tell me what you understand by data collection. Okay, who can come up?
So data collection is simply the organization or collecting information from different sources.
Is the organization?
Yes. Or collection of information from different sources.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I will basically, I will say that it's the collection of information which can be processed and stored later and be presented to the public.
The public.
Yeah.
Okay. So give me an example.
Example can be census.
It can be census. Good. Okay. So
yes.
What happened during census?
They collect some data from people, then they compile it. Yes.
So they collect data, eh? Okay. Okay, so in our presentation, guys, we are going to look at these three topics. We are going to look at the introduction on what data is, data collection is, and we will look at some data collection tools, right? Because to collect data, there are certain methods that are out there that you can use, yeah, to collect data. We have got different types of them. So we are going to look at each of them, all right? And one is great. And then the third point we are looking at is the advantages and disadvantages of all these type of data collection method or tools, okay? Because each and every method have got its advantages and disadvantage, okay? So if you choose a certain tool to use for your data collection, okay? So definitely there will be some challenges, okay? There will be some limitations, and also there will be some good things about it, okay? So that's what actually the last part that you're going to look at, advantages and disadvantages of these tools, okay? Right, now if you look at the introduction, it says data collection is the process of gathering and measuring information on variables of interest. Okay, that's very important. Gathering and measuring information on variables of interest. Okay, take an example. If you've got a database, people, if you've got a database and you want to retrieve certain information or to get some information, okay, like if there's a database that's keeping or having student information. So let's say, for instance, you're only looking for the information or the student name, the course, and maybe the course ID. So those are the variables of your interest. This is what we refer to as the variables of interest. Those are the area of your interest, okay? So that's actually basically what you are looking for, because when you're collecting data, you have got a purpose as to why you are collecting that data, okay? Maybe you want to analyze it and then use it for something else in future, okay? Now, so we said it's a process of gathering. So you gather this information and measuring information on variables. So you put your variables in place, you like put your objectives as to what information do you want and why, okay? In an established systematic fashion that enables one to answer stated research questions and evaluate outcomes. Okay, let's take a typical example on that relates or that will make us understand what data collection is. Now, when we went for this recess, the holidays, due to the COVID-19, and then when you guys resumed the classes, right? You were sent as an like there was a register that was circulating from the college. So the college was collecting certain information because it wanted to implement this online learning. Okay, so what they did is they used a certain method or a data collection tool to collect this information from you as students. Okay, so they were looking for students, some of the variables of interest, as the definition says here, were, so the college was looking at things like how many students has what? Smartphones. How many students have got access to internet? Okay, well, are you on part-time? Are you on full-time? Or are you on distance mode? Okay, so it was collecting, the college was collecting certain information or data about students. Okay, so but what method were they using? Okay, so we are going to look at that. Okay, and then when you look at there are certain things as well that Namibia Statistics Agency, when you look at the youth unemployment, how does that the government knows that there is certain number of percentages of students that are not working? So what they do is they go out to the public, into the community, they collect this information, they collect this data, and then they analyze. After analyzing, they come up with a conclusion, okay, that there is a certain number of youth members or youth or young people that are unemployed. So first you need to collect data. You need to collect data and then you analyze it. Then after analyzing it, you come up with your conclusion by saying Namibia has got 43% of young people who are not working. Because there's no way you can arrive at 43% without first collecting data. So you need to collect data and analyze it. And then after that, that's when you have now a conclusion of saying, I have this certain number of percentages of young people that are not working, okay? So very important, you said we are gathering information and measure it on variables, okay, of interest. And looking at another example, people, if I may continue, if you look at motor vehicle fund. So the motor vehicle fund, so how do they know that certain accidents happen in mostly between Okahanja and let's say Ochuarongo? So because that's where most of the accidents happen. So what do they do? How do they arrive at that? How do they arrive at that? So they go out there, they collect data. They collect this data and analyze it. So they collect data, maybe for instance, in the entire country, and then they put these things together, this information, this data that they have collected, they analyze it, and then they come to the conclusion that most of the accidents that are happening, or road accidents that are happening in Namibia, mostly maybe it's because of what maybe, and people are driving under the influence, or yeah. So, but first they collect data and then they analyze that. Okay, so that's why we are saying data is the basic foundation of everything. So you cannot have information first before having data. So you can't say you cannot say we have got a 43% of unemployment young people in Namibia. Okay, so how do you know that? You cannot just come up with something like that. So first you need data, you need to collect data and analyze it. So first is data first, okay? And then Cliff also mentioned about census, okay? So the government, or the government of Namibia, it does, or it do census, it count people, and so based on that, okay, now after collecting all this information or data, then they can able to tell how many people are in Namibia, okay? So they look at things like what? They do collect information, they do surveys, like they move from house to house. That's data collection. And on that, they also use a certain data collection tool or method, okay, which you're going to look at in the slide in this presentation as well, okay? So first, the first thing that you need to do is data. You need data first, okay, for you to come up with information. Because I think we have already spoken about the difference between data and information. So we said data is the raw facts. Data has no meaning, yeah? So it's just numbers, okay? But now when you put meaning into this number, it becomes information, okay? Because if you, let's say, if you select, or if you take an example of this, of Transfern College survey that it was doing, like when it was gathering information about students who are having smartphones, how many students have got access to internet, and so forth and so on, okay? So first they collected data, and then out of that, they could now point out that, no, you know, in Commerce region, there are this number of students, and they're female, they are on full-time mode, 10 of them have got access to internet, and 5 have got smartphones, 3 are using tablets, okay? So first you need data, and then you can able to say that in Commerce region, we have got 10 students who have got access to online, to internet, and have got smartphones. So we can go ahead with our online teaching, okay? So that's why we said data is very important. First as the foundation, and then out of data, you can build up your information. So there's no way that you can have information first without gathering data first. So data, you need it first for you to, then you process that data, and then it becomes information, okay? Good. Okay, let's move on, guys. Let's move on to the next slide. If you don't have any question, I think you understand very well that what data is. Okay, now if I read further here, it says good data collection requires a clear process to ensure that you collect clean, consistent, and reliable data, okay? So it requires what? A clear process. So your process should be clear from right at the beginning to the end. So the people that are working on that, they should know what exactly they are doing, what they are looking for, okay? And then establishing that process, however, can be tricky. Yeah, it can be tricky. It's a tricky process, actually. It involves taking stock of your objectives. So before you do any data collection tool, you need to have objective, right? Like, why are you collecting data? Yes, because it's now 10 years, I want to know how many people are in Namibia, and I want to know the population of Namibia. So that is the objective, okay? Or I want to know how many males and female are in Namibia, okay? Or I want to know how many Triumphant College students are having smartphones, or how many Triumphant College students are doing IT. So you need to have your objectives, okay? So let's move on, guys. So now we have got the different tools. There are so many of them, but I just decided to look at these 6, okay? So these are the tools that you can use. These are the methods that you can use to collect data, okay? You can use participatory methods as one of the data collection tool or method, or you can use records and secondary data. This is one of the tools as well. You can use observation. You just observe things, okay? And it's one way also of creating of collecting data. Surveys and interviews. Okay, so you can use surveys and interviews to collect data. Okay, and focus group, diaries, journals, and self-reported checklist. Okay, now let's go through each of them like one by one. Okay, let's start with participatory method. What is participatory method? What do you mean by participatory method? Or how is participatory method is actually done? Great. Now with participatory method, we say it involves groups or community heavily in data collection. I think this is straightforward. So whether you go to the community or to certain groups within the community and you collect data, okay? Maybe you only focus on farmers, okay? You're only focusing on farmers and that's where your focus is, okay? So you only focus on maybe farmers or maybe police officers. You only focus on teachers because that is the only group that you're more concerned into, okay? Now, and then the examples of participatory methods, community meetings, mapping, and transit walks, okay? So what do you mean by community meetings? People, these things are very clear. They're self-explanatory, yeah? The community meetings, okay, let's go to that slide, to the next slide. Right now, the community meetings is an example of participatory method. One of the most common participatory method. So this community meeting is one of the the most common method that is used in participatory methods. Okay. So whereby you go to the community, you either target a certain group or you just go to the entire community and collect your data, depending on what you want to get. Okay, and then mapping, it's also straightforward. So you draw maps, or you can use existing maps. So let's say if you take Windhoek, for instance, okay? Or you take maybe, let's say, yeah, Windhoek, and then you make it, you scale down to a certain location, like maybe you say, I'm going to collect data in town, okay? So you draw the map or you use the existing map, maybe from the municipality, that this is the area that I'm covering, okay, for my data collection. So you can either draw a new map or you can use the existing maps. Maybe you can request a new map from the city of Windhoek, and then you can use that as your tool. Right, let's move on. And then here they're looking at different types of mapping. So what do you mean by transit walks, sorry? So the evaluator walks around the community observing people. So that is basically what transit walk is. So there's a certain person that you can either walk around the community and you observe people, how they are doing things, the surrounding and even the resources, okay? When you're doing the trans walk, people, you need a good observation skills, yeah? So you cannot just do it without certain skills. Okay, so you need skills because you need to get the right information or data from the community, okay? Right, moving on to the second one, which is now records and secondary data. So this one is very straightforward. with records, you've got files and records. Okay, so you've got your files that are saved or that are kept somewhere. Okay, so you go and pull out these records or these files, and then you read, get information or data that you want. Okay, computer databases. You can also use computer databases, industry or government reports, other reports, or prior evaluation, census data, and household what? Surveys. Okay, now if you look at this one, it says secondary data. Secondary data. Okay, because somebody have created them, like files and records. Somebody in the government offices. So what you do is just go and request one data collection. Okay, so we're calling them secondary because they are information. Okay, somebody created them. Right. So that is secondary. So these are some of the examples of secondary source, secondary and records. We've got also newspapers and television. And television reports, yeah, yes. Great. Now, people, on the advantages and disadvantages of each of the tool or the method, this one I will leave it to you read yourself. Just going to read it, and yeah. So please read through the advantages and disadvantages of this. Method, you see what is happening, right? You see what is happening. Traffic patterns, okay, land use patterns, the layout of the city and rural areas, the quality of housing, condition of roads. Okay, so what's happening? What do you, okay? If I go to in the morning, if I go to going to your drive Monday, early morning Monday, you are driving to town. Okay, have you seen how congested the roads are? And then you compare it like when you go to town on a Sunday evening or in the afternoon. Okay, so the traffic patterns is totally different. Okay, so but you do this by observation. You just observe. Okay, and then you also look at the land use patterns. Okay, so how are the people settling themselves in different towns? Okay, do they prefer being at the hilly sides or is it in the low-lying areas? Okay, the layout of the city and rural areas. Okay, so when you compare like a city like Windhoek and Grootfontein, okay, do they have the same layout? Okay, so you do the observing, you observe this, you collect data, you do this by observing. You look at the way how the cities are laid out in the rural areas as well. And the quality of housing. So if you travel, if you go to Lüderitz, or if you go to Katima, you look at the house, the quality of the houses in Katima, in Windhoek, and in Lüderitz. Are these houses having same quality? Okay, so you do this by seeing what is happening. You just do the observation. You look at the house quality. You look at the quality. Okay, and then the condition of roads. If you look at the roads in town and you compare them with the ones in Tura, they are totally different. They are different. Okay, so the ones in Katura have got potholes, and they are narrow. They are not wide, and so forth and so on. So you do this, you get this information by observing. You can just observe, you can just drive to town and go and drive in to Katutura, and then you see the different, the condition of roads, okay? And then the conditions of building as well. So that is observation, people. Okay, okay, observation, we need direct information. So basically, I think our observation is clear. We don't need to go more in detail into that. Okay, now these are the different ways to record information from observation. Okay, so you need an observation guide and the recording sheets, because whatever you record or you observe, you need to record it. Okay, So you need to record it. So you need like a checklist, right, to record your opinions or whatever you are seeing. Okay, so you need a field notes, you need an observation guide, or the recording sheet or checklist, right? You know, when the journalists are walking around, they used to work with a small book. That is actually for recording whatever they have, they are seeing, or they are, yeah, or what they are observing. Yes. Okay, moving on, guys. And you need to plan your observation. Okay, you need to have more than one observer if possible, if feasible, yes. And the observers need to be trained, okay, so that you can observe the same thing. Okay, if let's say, for instance, if I and Cliff go to town, we have to observe something. Okay, we need to be trained, else we might have get some information, wrong information, which is not needed. So we need to be trained such a way that we got the information that organization is looking for. Okay, so information definitely have to be more or less the same. Okay, if we are actually observing the same thing.
All right. Okay.
Right, let's move on, guys. Right, now you need to pilot what? With observation, you need to pilot the observation data collection instrument. So what does that mean? You need like a, how should I say? The pilot test the observation. It's like doing like a, not the actual observation, but you just test it before you go do the actual observation. So you need to test your tools, your instrument, your data collection instruments first, okay? Before going into the actual data collection process. So you need to test that first with when it comes to observation. Okay, and then here are the challenges and the benefits on using this method. As I said, guys, please read through this on your own, the advantages, the challenges, and the advantages of each of the method. Now the fourth one is surveys and interviews. Okay, so it's also straightforward. It's also it's a part of a data collection tool, surveys and interviews. Okay, so it's you ask people people's opinion, their ideas about a certain topic, and so forth and so on. So this is more on surveys and interviews. So it's less accurate for measuring behaviors. The sample should be representative of the whole. Big problem response rates. Okay, so these are some of the actually advantages, or maybe some challenges and advantages on when it comes to surveys and interviews. Okay. So say something on the interviews. People, we know all this what you're talking about, the interviews. We heard about interviews. Some of us were even called to interviews. So what is the purpose of this? It's just basically to collect information about you. Okay, maybe your background, your experience, your weaknesses, your strength, whether you can work under pressure or not. So basically they interview you because they want to know more about you. They want to collect information about you so that they can work on that. So that's why you end up like when people go for interview, 10 people, 9 fails, and then they only select one because the ninth, the one that they have selected is the one that reached their objectives. Okay, because he was presenting what maybe the organization wanted. Okay, so they were collecting data, information about this person. And then here we've got a structure of surveys. We have got structured and unstructured, and then semi-structured surveys. Okay, now the structured one is whereby precisely worded with a range of predetermined responses that respondent can select. Okay, so with a structured one is whereby you have like questions or like how should I say, like what you want to get from that certain survey. Okay, so like you here you're being precise. Okay, so what you do is, no, I want the height of the student, I want their cell phone numbers, I want their course name, I want if they are having mobile device, I mean smartphones, and they have got access to internet. So here you are being precise with the structured surveys. Okay, so you have like like a structure or precise worded letter. I mean outline of what you want to collect. So that is a structured survey. But the semi-structured one, it's whereby ask same general set of questions, but answers to the questions are predominantly open-ended. So with the structured, if you start with the structured one, you only ask questions or things that you want. Okay, so those things that you don't want, you don't record them. Okay, so you only focus on what you have outlined in your survey document. But now the semi-structured, you leave a room for self-expression. I mean, for so that a person can express himself, like to say things out of what you not, what is not in your survey. Okay, so it's like you give out a room for a person to elaborate more on the topic, unlike in a structured survey whereby you only focus on certain things. Okay, I hope you guys are not sleeping. Okay, so here they are just talking about a mode of surveys as well. You can do it over telephone, mail, or internet. So you can also do that. You can also do your surveys through internet, through phones, through emails, and so forth and so on. Okay, and also some challenges. Definitely, there are some challenges and some advantages on surveys and interviews as one of the data collection tool. So that was more on surveys. Now, if you look at the interview, we also have got, we know what an interview is. Okay, we know what is an interview. So guys, I don't have to explain to you what an interview is. But what you can say is that we have got also semi-structured and structured interviews. Okay. Right, and then we got some challenges. Interview is expensive, labor intensive, and time consuming. And the fourth is okay. Mr. Taffy, let me unmute you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question on
Yes.
interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have a question on interviews. How
Yes.
do you collect data through interview?
Through interview.
Yes. How do you collect data through interviews?
Okay. You have you ever been called to interview before?
Not really.
But have you ever had a friend of yours that he was called to interview, a family member, a friend, or a neighbor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
So
said I was on the interview. That's all.
okay. So what interview it does is you interview people. So when you're interviewing a person, like you're collecting information, you know that sometimes when you walk around in town, when you meet this some journalists, you know that sometimes they stop you, right? And then maybe they question you about COVID-19, like what impact does it had, what challenges, what did you learn from what did we learn from COVID-19? Okay, So that person is interviewing you, he's collecting information, your opinion regarding that certain topic, right? Now in the interviews, like for a job, here they interview you, they want to know more about you. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
they ask questions around you, around your qualification, background, and then more in detail about how do you know about the job that you have applied for. Okay, so they need to know this, they need to collect this information, and then they use it, they collect, they analyze it, and then they use that to arrive at a certain decision, either to employ you or not. Okay, so they have to interview you.
Okay.
Did I
Okay.
answer your question somehow?
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
You can proceed.
all right, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now the focus group people, if you may continue. It's where you a small homogeneous group of people, homogeneous group, a small homogeneous group. So meaning homogeneous, it's where you it means the same. It means the same thing. Yeah, homogeneous and heterogeneous. Okay, so heterogeneous is different, and then this one refers to the same group. Okay, so here maybe for instance you're looking at only IT student. Okay, you're not combining the whole campus. You're not collecting data on all the students. Yeah, so you only focus on certain group. Okay, maybe only students that are doing IT, or only female students at Triumphant College, all of them, excluding the male ones. Okay, so you separate. Okay, where a small homogeneous group of people are brought together to formally discuss specific topics, the guidance of moderator. Okay, so you are a moderator. You gather these students in one of the in the hall, maybe the female students. Okay, and then you as a moderator, as the person that is facilitating the discussion, you only allow female students in that data collection process. Okay, maybe you're talking about gender-based violence. Okay, since that most of this happens to female, so you only focus to the group, and then you get more information about how do they see this. Okay, so you exclude the other gender. I mean the other, you exclude the male student. Okay, so that is more on focus group. So focus group is actually mainly focuses on homogeneous group. Okay. Okay, people, some of these slides you can just read through yourself. Okay, and then those are the different process on focus group, if you are want to use that method. And then we also have got advantages and disadvantages on focus group as one of the two. Diaries and self-reported checklist. Okay. Okay, now this is the last tool that you'll be looking at. Now with the diaries and self-reported checklist, it's used when you want to capture information about events in people's life. Okay, so and then capture. And then participants capture experiences in real time, not later in questionnaire. Okay, you use that to supplement the other data. So the diaries and checklist, basically the last one for our discussion today, as one of the tools to use when you're collecting data. These are the guidelines. Okay, when you are using to use this method. Okay, on diary self-reported. So I think that is the end of the tradition. And check.
Yes, sir. Can I compare with the participatory method and the focus groups?
Mm-hmm.
What's more difference with homogeneous groups with the focus and the participatory group. So because participatory involves groups or community heavily in data collection, right?
Mhm.
Then focus groups, you just focus on a certain group of people.
Yes.
Now, I was looking at the advantage of like language barrier and different group of people. How do you compare these two types of data collection?
Okay, as you have already said that now the focus group is mainly on a certain group, but what is that? The other one, the participatory method, you don't take that into consideration. So you just go into the community. Okay.
Okay.
You go into a certain community. As I've said, for instance, you just focus on what? On farmers. So here, you don't take into consideration of whether we have got male or female. So, but it's just a certain group, yeah? It's just a certain group, but you just include everyone without looking at any other factors or elements.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Did I?
Okay, see. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, if I give you a scenario, will you be able to tell which method to use and why?
Like which scenario, sir?
Any scenario, any scenario.
Yes.
Okay. So first, you need to understand the difference between them. You read the advantages and disadvantages, and after that, you can advise. You'll be in a good position to advise someone to use that certain data collection tool, but not the other one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So people, I think you're going to end here for today. Your assignment is to be ready.
Okay.
I'll forward it today. Your assignment, I'll put it on the model. I was just putting some final touches. So you will see it on the model.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
So it's for both for ITS and also web designing, or only
yeah,
for
web
ITS?
design, we'll talk about it tomorrow, in tomorrow's lesson.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't have any question, let me end the meeting here.
Will you send the notes?
Yeah, I did send the notes already.
Okay.
I will send the recording then.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you so much, and see you.
Okay, see you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good day.
All right.
Hey, Anton.
What is it?